Attack on Titan, you probably know it as that anime where giant naked people eat humans and everyone screams a lot. Which fair, that's definitely what's happening. But stick with me here because Attack on Titan might be the most comprehensive sociology lecture ever disguised as a shonen anime, and I'm not even exaggerating. This show takes every question about how societies form, who controls them, why people obey, what happens when the truth comes out, and it wraps it all in this nightmare where humanity's living in giant walls because monsters want to eat them. Except, that's not really what it's about, at all. Attack on Titan is about what happens when an entire civilization is built on a lie so fundamental that discovering the truth doesn't set you free, it destroys you. So today we're cracking open Paradis Island, Marley, the whole mess, and looking at how this world constructs itself. Because once you see the sociological machinery under the surface, the whole story hits different, way different. Let's do this. Part 1. Terror as the glue holding everything together. Okay, so, Season 1. Humanity's on the brink of extinction, living behind 3 massive walls, and outside those walls are titans who want to eat everyone. Simple, right? Monsters bad, walls good, humans united against common threat. But here's what the show is actually showing you from episode 1. This society needs the titans. Not in a we like being eaten way, obviously, but sociologically, the fear of titans is the only thing holding Paradis together. Think about it. You've got 100 years of peace inside the walls, no titan attacks, but instead of people relaxing, they've built this entire social structure around the threat of titans. The military exists to fight them, the walls exist to keep them out. Every child grows up learning that the world beyond is death. Remove the titans, and what's left? What unites these people? What justifies the military, the monarchy, the whole system? This is Durkheim's concept of social solidarity. Societies need something shared to hold them together. Could be religion, could be national identity, could be collective terror of being eaten by giants. In Paradis, fear isn't just an emotion, it's infrastructure. It's the foundation everything else is built on. And the people in power know this. There's this moment early on where the citizens are panicking after War Maria falls, and the government's response isn't to comfort them. It's to remind them how dangerous the world is. To reinforce the fear, because fear keeps people obedient. You don't question authority when you think authority is the only thing standing between you and being eaten alive. It's genius, it's horrifying, and it's not even that unrealistic. How many real-world governments have sustained themselves by keeping their populations afraid? By making sure people believe that without this specific system, this specific leadership, everything will collapse into chaos. Paradis didn't discover this strategy, they just made it really, really explicit. Part 2. The people who decide what's true. So let's talk about the king, and the nobles, and the military police, and the Church of the Walls. Basically everyone who knew the truth and spent a century making sure nobody else did. Because here's the thing about Paradis, it's not just that they're afraid of titans. They've been taught an entire version of reality that's completely false. They think humanity is extinct except for them. They think the world outside the walls is uninhabitable. They think the walls were a divine gift. None of this is true, but an entire civilization believes it because the people in power erased history. This is Antonio Gramsci's cultural hegemony in action. You don't control people just through force, you control them by shaping what they think is natural, obvious, unquestionable. The king didn't need soldiers on every corner. He just needed to make sure that every history book, every religious sermon, every school lesson taught the same lie. And after a few generations, nobody even remembers there was ever a different truth. The genius of it is that most people enforcing the lie probably don't even know it's a lie. The military police aren't all cynical villains. They genuinely believe they're protecting humanity. The Church of the Walls isn't just corrupt, they've internalized the mythology. That's how hegemony works. You don't need a conspiracy if everyone's already been taught to police themselves. There's this scene where the Survey Corps starts asking too many questions, and the government's response isn't to argue with them, it's to threaten them, shut them down, make sure those questions never get asked publicly. Because the system can't afford questions. The moment people start asking, wait, why don't we know our own history? The whole structure starts crumbling, and that's exactly what happens, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Part 3. Walls aren't just walls. Let's talk geography for a second, because the walls aren't just protection, they're a class system made of stone. You've got 3 walls, right? Wall Maria on the outside, then Rose, then Cena in the center, and where you live determines everything about your life. Wall Maria, you're basically bait. First line of defense, most dangerous, poorest districts. When the titans break through, it's your family that gets eaten. Wall Rose, slightly safer, slightly more comfortable. You're still worried, but you've got some distance from the nightmare. Wolsina? Oh, you're fine. You're in the capital, Mitras, where the nobles live, where the king lives, where titans are basically a theoretical problem that happens to other people. The walls are a perfect visual metaphor for social stratification. The further out you are, the more you suffer. The further in, the more you're insulated from consequences. And the thing is, the people in Wolsina didn't build those outer walls to protect humanity. They built them to protect themselves, and everyone else is just collateral. When Wall Maria falls and refugees flood into Wall Rose, what happens? The government debates letting them starve because feeding them would strain resources. Not even a debate about how to help, a debate about whether to help. Because to the people making decisions, the outer wall residents aren't really people. They're acceptable losses, expendable, the price of maintaining order for the people who matter. Eren grows up in Shiganshina, the outer district of Wall Maria. His entire hometown gets destroyed. His mom gets eaten, and he learns real fast that the people in power don't care. They never cared. The walls weren't built to save everyone, they were built to make sure the right people survived. Part 4. Turning kids into soldiers and calling it honor. So you're a kid in Paradis, you're maybe 12 years old, and you're taught that joining the military is the most noble thing you can do, that serving humanity means putting on a uniform, learning to kill titans, and being ready to die for the cause. Nobody questions this, it's just what you do, it's duty, it's honor, it's right. And if you're good enough, skilled enough, you get to join the military police, the cushy job in the interior where you're protecting the king, but really you're just enforcing the status quo and living comfortably. Or you join the garrison, defending the walls, doing the grunt work. Or, if you're brave or crazy or desperate, you join the survey corps. The people who go outside the walls into Titan territory on suicide missions that have like a 90% casualty rate. And society treats them like heroes. This is Max Weber's concept of legitimate authority playing out in real time. People obey not because they're forced to, but because they believe the system is right. That military service equals moral virtue. That sacrifice for humanity is the highest calling. But here's the uncomfortable question the show keeps asking. Who benefits from all these kids dying? Not humanity. Humanity's been safe behind the walls for 100 years. The Survey Corps hasn't actually accomplished anything in decades. They just keep throwing bodies at titans and calling it progress. So why does the military keep existing? Why do kids keep enlisting? Because the system needs it. The fear needs to be ritualized, made sacred. The Survey Corps aren't effective. They're symbolic. They prove that humanity is still fighting, still resisting, still unified against the enemy, even if the enemy is mostly just out there, not really threatening anyone anymore. It's not about winning, it's about maintaining the performance of resistance so the social order stays intact. And the kids, they're not being protected, they're being used. Eren figures this out way faster than most people. That's why he's so angry all the time. He sees through the performance, sees that the system doesn't actually care about freedom or humanity. It cares about control. And he's not wrong. Part 5, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Alright, so mid-series twist time. Big spoilers if you haven't watched, but also this show's been out for years, so. Paradis learns they're not the last humans. There's a whole world out there. Specifically, there's Marley. This militaristic empire that's been using titans as weapons and treating Eldians, the people of Paradis, as subhuman devils. And you'd think, okay, now Paradis knows the truth. Now they can break free from the lies, build something better. Nope. They just recreate the same system they hated. They define themselves against Marley. They build an enemy narrative. They start talking about national survival, about defending their people, about the necessity of violence. Sound familiar? This is conflict theory 101. Societies love having an external enemy because it creates instant internal cohesion. You don't have to solve your domestic problems if everyone's focused on the foreign threat. Paradis spent a century unified by fear of titans. Now they're unified by fear of Marley. The structure hasn't changed. They just swapped out the monster. And Marley, they're doing the exact same thing. They teach their citizens that Eldians are devils, that Paradis is a threat, that military expansion is necessary for survival. Both sides think they're the victims. Both sides think they're justified. Both sides are trapped in the same ideological loop, just pointing in opposite directions. Eren becomes the perfect symbol of this. He goes from, I want to kill all titans, to I want to destroy everyone outside Paradis. Same rage, same logic, just scaled up. He thinks he's fighting for freedom, but he's just reproducing the cycle on a bigger stage. Part 6, Violence as an Inheritance. Here's where Attack on Titan gets really heavy, because the show keeps asking this question, why do people keep hurting each other? And the answer it gives is, Because they were taught to. Because they inherited trauma, inherited enemy narratives, inherited the belief that violence is survival. Nobody in this show is born evil. The Marleyans aren't monsters. The Paradisians aren't saints. They're all just people trapped in systems that were built before they were born, and those systems tell them this is what you have to do to survive. The Eldian kids in Marley are taught to hate themselves, to prove their loyalty by killing other Eldians. The Paradisian kids are taught that the outside world wants them dead, and both groups grow up, put on uniforms, and perpetuate the cycle. This is structural functionalism taken to its darkest conclusion. The system persists because people believe it serves a necessary function, even when that function is just more violence. Reiner's story is the perfect example. He's a Marleyan warrior sent to destroy Paradis. He commits atrocities, and then he has to live with it, and you see him break under the weight of what he's done. But he's not a villain. He's a kid who was told this was heroism, who believed he was saving the world. Same with Eren on the other side. Same with Gabby. Same with almost everyone. They're all victims of the same machine, and the machine doesn't care which side you're on. It just needs you to keep feeding it bodies. Part 7. When the lie dies, what's left? So what happens when the truth finally comes out? When Paradis learns their history was erased? When they find out the world exists? When the carefully constructed narrative that held everything together just shatters? Durkheim called this anomie. A state where social norms collapse and people lose their sense of meaning and purpose. And that's exactly what happens. The society doesn't celebrate the truth, it fractures. Some people want revenge, some want peace, some just want to go back to the lie because at least the lie was coherent. There's this massive public unrest after Historia takes the throne and some of the truth gets revealed. People don't know what to believe anymore. The government they trusted was lying. The history they learned was fake. The enemy they feared might not be the real enemy. And in that vacuum, extremism grows because when people lose their foundation, they grab onto anything that offers certainty. That's how you get the Jaegerists. That's how you get Eren's cult of personality. People so desperate for a new narrative, a new purpose, that they'll follow this someone promising simple answers to impossible questions. We'll destroy our enemies. We'll be free. It's seductive, it's clear, it's wrong, but it feels like meaning in a world that stopped making sense. Part 8. Freedom is the hardest thing to build. So the final arcs of Attack on Titan are basically about one question. What does freedom actually mean? And what are you willing to destroy to get it? Eren says freedom means eliminating all threats, total security through total annihilation. The rumbling, literally flattening the entire world so Paradis can't be hurt anymore. It's the logical endpoint of the fear-based system he grew up in. If the problem is external threats, then the solution is no more external anything. Armin, on the other hand, keeps arguing for coexistence, for finding a way to break the cycle without destroying everything, for choosing dialogue over genocide. It's messy, it's uncertain, it doesn't promise safety, but it's the only option that doesn't just reproduce the same violence on a bigger scale. This is basically Rousseau versus Hobbes playing out in real time. Hobbes said humans need a powerful authority to keep them from destroying each other. The social contract is about trading freedom for security. Rousseau said freedom is only real when people cooperatively build systems together, when authority serves the collective will, not the other way around. Eren's the Hobbesian nightmare, so obsessed with security that he becomes the tyrant, the all-powerful authority crushing everything in the name of protection. Armin's trying for the Rousseauian dream, building something new together, even though it's harder and scarier and might not work. And the show doesn't give you an easy answer, it just shows you the consequences of both paths and asks, which world do you want to live in? One where you're safe but alone, or one where you're vulnerable but free to choose? At the end, a show about giant monsters eating people. Also one of the most thorough examinations of how societies construct themselves, maintain power, justify violence, and eventually collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. Paradis built itself on fear and lies, and when the truth came out, it didn't liberate anyone. It just revealed that everyone, everywhere was stuck in the same trap. Marley, Paradis, Eldians, Marleyans, doesn't matter. They're all playing the same game, just with different flags. And the real horror isn't the Titans, it's how easy it is to convince people that violence is necessary, that enemies are inevitable, that the only way to survive is to crush the other side before they crush you. Every generation inherits this logic. Every generation thinks, this time it's different, this time it's justified. And the cycle continues. Until someone, maybe Eren, maybe Armin, maybe someone we never see, figures out how to stop playing the game entirely. Attack on Titan doesn't give you a happy ending tied up with a bow. It gives you a choice, same as its characters. Do you keep building walls, physical, ideological, national, and pretend they'll keep you safe forever? Or do you tear them down, accept the risk, and try to build something that doesn't require an enemy to exist? Anyway, if you haven't watched Attack on Titan, go watch it. If you have, maybe rewatch it and notice how much of it is just sociology with better animation. Let me know in the comments if you think Eren was right, if Armin was naive, or if the whole point is that there are no right answers when your entire civilization is built on trauma. Thanks for watching.